There's only one New York metro area team left playing hockey right now. That is the New Jersey Devils, who started their playoff run on Sunday. But that playoff run, they didn't get off to a good start, falling to Carolina, the Hurricanes, that is, 4-1 in Raleigh in Game 1 of their opening round playoff series. So let's talk some Devils hockey. We're going to do it with a writer who covers the team for the Hockey News, the great Kristy Flannery. Haven't seen her in a while. Kristy, always good to see you. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. I'm doing better than the Devils after Game 1. Hopefully we all are doing better than the Devils, but they have a chance to bounce back, and we're going to talk about it and see what they can do going forward. And Kristy, I got to ask you this. What stood out to you the most about what went wrong for the Devils in Game 1? Was it more about their lack of execution, or was it what Carolina did to disrupt their game plan?
You know, it's funny because head coach Sheldon Keefe was talking about how the Carolina Hurricanes play like a really simple game, and they're an easy team to kind of prepare for in that regard, but they're a really hard team to play against. And for me, when I watched today's game, they just looked completely overwhelmed from beginning to end. They did get better. Sheldon Keefe made some in-game adjustments, changed the lines around, so I think that did help. But this was a team that was just completely overwhelmed by Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina brought it to them in the first period, and they never were able to recover. Now, you just mentioned the word adjustments, and we know that there's always going to be adjustments from game to game in a series. But when you look at the play in net, should the Devils go to Jake Allen instead of Jacob Markstrom in Game 2? Or, I should say, going forward for the postseason? Not putting it all on Markstrom, but do you think there should be a change in goal for the Devils here?
No, I think Jacob Markstrom was the one positive of today's game. I mean, besides the fact that he accidentally injured Cody Glass. But I thought that he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And if you think back to when, Tom Fitzgerald traded for Markstrom, like he traded for this moment. He needed a starting goaltender to go into the postseason. This is why they traded what they did to get him. So they're going to keep going with him until they force Keefe's hand to make a change. But other than that, Markstrom, I don't think was even close to being the issue.
Right, so he's not the problem with the Devils today. We talked about their energy at the top, and they just were overmatched by Carolina here. Now, offensively, the Devils, they struggle to generate quality scoring chances. So what needs to change for New Jersey in Game 2 for them to create more sustained offensive zone pressure against the Hurricanes?
I thought the Nico Hischier line with Jesper Bratt and Stefan Nason was kind of the first line to really get that sustained offensive zone time. And then the adjustment that head coach Sheldon Keefe made was actually splitting them up and splitting up Jesper and Nico, which kind of is good for him because it's now you're forcing Carolina's top defensive pair. Do you take Nico or do you take Jesper? And they're both extremely challenging to defend in their own ways. So I think that really benefited him. And before Game 1, I asked Sheldon Keefe like how important it was for each player to understand their role and each line to have their own identity. And he said that they need to be fluid, they need to be flexible, because he said that he was going to be making in-game, changes to the lineup, and the guys were going to have to be able to adjust to that. And that is what we saw this afternoon.
Okay, Kristy, it's always important when you can see the coach making adjustments in game. That's important, but you also want to make adjustments, as I mentioned before, from game to game. So what's the biggest adjustment that the Devils need to make before they have the chance to even this series and head back to New York? So what's the biggest adjustment you need to see from New Jersey here in Game 2?
I think there's the on-ice adjustments and the mental adjustment. And mentally, we saw a bunch of guys that this was their first playoff game. And there's emotions that come with it. The announcers were talking about how this is Brett Pesce's first playoff game against his former team. So I think once that emotion wears off, I think the Devils will be in a better place. But also, special teams was not kind to New Jersey tonight. So you have to work on special teams, just kind of being calmer and just simplifying your game, because they know Carolina plays that simplified game, and they just have to match that and not become their own worst enemy.
Always got to be better on special teams, especially in the playoffs. And Kristy, you're right. Sometimes with a young team in the postseason, just got to settle down a little bit after Game 1. We'll see if the Devils can do that in Game 2 down in Raleigh. That is Kristy Flannery. She covers the Devils for the Hockey News. Check her out there. Kristy, always a pleasure to talk some Devils hockey with you at this time of year. It's the only New York metro area team we have to talk about, so we are glad to talk to you about this. Thank you, Kristy.
Thank you.